Hey everybody, Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome to the latest episode of my Point and Click Classics series, where I dive into my favorite point and click games from the past, as well as some recommendations from some fans over in Discord. Today we're going to be reviewing probably one of my, if not the favorite point and click game that I have in my arsenal, which was Quest for Glory 1 So You Want to Be a Hero. I absolutely love this game, and I played a lot of it when I was a kid. Um, and my brother played it. It was just, this is one of those games that just kind of highlighted for me the beginning of my obsession with point and click games as I was growing up. Before we get into today's review, though, I'd like to ask you a favor. If this is your first time here, do me a favor as you get through with this video. If you like it, let me know with a like on the video and drop a comment below if you have anything to say about this video. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update for all of the things that I produce here on YouTube. And if you want to go above and beyond, you can join us in Discord. Links are below. And you can always pick up a subscription to support what I do here on YouTube over at our Patreon page. Again, links are down there, but it's patreon.com/wandering hermit. So you can find out more about what I'm doing with my brother and my wife working on The Weave in the Void, which is a point and click game as well as a 5th edition tabletop game and a book series, kind of like Dragonlance. So check it all out. Let me know. Let's dive in. Quest for Glory 1. This entire series is, for me, I love all the games in this series. The 5th is probably the weakest, and this is about the point when the game kind of would petered out. And we were getting into the next generation of games. Point and click was kind of on its way out at the time, but it was still a solid entry into the game series if you're like me and you're a fan of the entire thing. And we are going to be reviewing all of the point and click games in this series. The one we're going to be skipping, at least a playthrough. I may do a video where I talk about the game from a storyline perspective, but that's the second one because they never did a point and click version of that. It's text only. And since we're talking about point and click classics, it kind of doesn't fall into that category, even though I think it is a very good game. But without further ado, let's talk about this first game because this is a game that actually kind of hybridized the difference between point and click games, which are traditionally quest heavy and have lots of dialogue, and combat, which this game has, along with RPG elements like stats and the leveling up of said stats. You also have the ability to pick one of 3 archetypes at the beginning of this game, so you can choose to be a fighter, a mage, or a thief. Now, there are pros and cons to all of them. But when I was growing up, and if you're like me and you did this, I always preferred to start off with a rogue build, the thief build. The reason for that being that if you didn't mind grinding the stats, you could actually get every stat in the game by starting a thief, because you do have a certain amount of points that you can spend at the beginning of the game to unlock other abilities. And with a thief, you have so many already unlocked that there's just a handful that you need to put points into, and you can do that and still have a couple of points left to spare. However, the abilities that you get are at such a base level that you really have to level them up if you want them to be, really of any use to you and you want your character to be fully versatile. And that can take a little bit of time. So if you're just looking to do a straight playthrough, pick an archetype and stick to that archetype's strengths, and you'll have fun. And it's a great experience. And that's something where I remember the first time I played through as a fighter and really had a lot of fun. And I've played through all the archetypes in every one of these games over the years, but I always end up coming back to the thief one being sort of the funnest for me because the thieves guilds are a lot of fun. There's extra dialogue, there's extra stuff you can do, and of course if you want to sit there and grind that stuff out, you can end up maxing out your characters. One of the other things that was really unique about this series is the ability to export your character at the end of each game and import it into the next game. So that you would start with the stats and everything else that you had from the previous game, and it will allow you to kind of roll that experience over. And as I remember, that was pretty unique for the time, given that how most other games you just picked up and started a new character and moved on. So those are some of the things I really like about this game. Other components are the dialogue. I mean, obviously, most point and click games are known for kind of blending a little bit of humor in. And I kind of talked about in the first episode I did in this series, The Dig, where I said that The Dig was one of those. It had a little bit of humor, but not nearly as much as previous installments from LucasArts. And this being a Sierra game, comedy was very much a core component of pretty much all of their point and click games throughout the era. And Quest for Glory is no exception to that. We have lots of puns, we have lots of great dialogue. One of my favorite components of this is when you are going into the Thieves Guild and the actual thief master, the chief thief, is just ranting about how the unionization and these new thieves bringing everything down and woe is me, blah blah blah. But then also, I think it's Bruno, the thief who hangs out front of Spielberg, and you have to talk to him to get some information out of him. But he's constantly trying to get you into trouble. He's like, "Don't forget to try the dragon's breath," and "Oh, you should go give the ogre a big pat on the back." Like he's always giving you like tips that are gonna get you into trouble and or possibly kill your character, which is another component of the Quest for Glory games that I really loved, which was you can die in a lot of different ways in these games, just like you can in a lot of Sierra games. And the death messages that you get, why you died, it's always a fun, quirky message. And that was part of the fun of playing these games is figuring out all the ways that you could potentially all the ways you could potentially kill your character off and to get those fun, quirky messages as your character died and be like, ah, that was awesome. Let's try a different way. Um, and speaking of different ways, there is another component to this game which is really cool in the sense that because you have different archetypes, you're often presented with different ways to complete quests and tasks. Not in and not in every scenario, but in some scenarios. And I always like to use the part where you need to get the seed from the spitting plants. Not to spoil too much of things, I'm just giving you a quick example. You have a couple of different ways that are right off the bat readily available to you. One of which is if you have the climbing skill, you can climb up and just catch it. And the other being if you have the fetch spell as a wizard or as a magic user, you can use the fetch spell to bring that seed to you. This is just one example. Another one being the bird's nest above the healer in that tree because there's you need to get something out of that nest. You can either choose to climb the tree and get it that way, or you can pick up some rocks and throw rocks at the nest until you eventually knock it down and find the object that's in that bird's nest. Couple of examples here, and I like that because it does allow you to have that freedom of role play to some degree and to really play to the strengths of your archetype as opposed to being forced into doing it a very specific way every single time. But of course, that does vary because there are things that have to be done a certain way. There's a certain thing in Atlanta's Rest, as an example. You have to use a magic spell to open up that stone tomb kind of area, and that's the only way to get that open. And it really only affects magic users because there's a spell hidden inside. So that's just one of those things where it's archetype specific and it's meant to be for that class. So, lots of different things going on in this game. I'm not going to spoil the story too much here, but obviously the main object is here. You're a brand new adventurer and you came to this town. You put your name in the adventurer's log at the Adventurers Guild because you're the newest adventurer in town and you're here to make a name for yourself. You want to be a hero. And there are lots of little things that you can do, but there is a primary storyline going on here. And what's really fun about this is that if you've never played this before, and I'm not going to spoil any of the story here, but if you pay attention to the dialogue as players are telling you what's been going on in this area over the past few years, you'll start to get hints and tips about who the big bad guy is. And when it all plays out, if you didn't catch those moments completely when you read them, it'll all come together and you're going to have this moment of going, oh, oh my God, it makes total sense. Um, and of course, they do set this up to where the ending just naturally progresses into the next game, Quest for Glory 2. So it's a nice segue into this, and I think that's one of the things I really liked about the series too is that each one naturally leads to the next one in terms of the storyline. You are a hero and you're making your way from place to place solving quests, finishing quests and having adventures in these different locations, and also carrying with you the reputation from before. And this being the first game, this is where you get your reputation for the first time. It's such a good game. I always come back to this and say this is, like I said, it's in my top three, if not my number one slot. It just kind of changes by the year how I feel. But this has always been one of my favorite games. I love replaying it every few years. It's just a great classic. It's good for all ages. And if you've never played it before, I highly recommend that you do. It's not a huge time commitment unless you decide to go and max out a thief with all of his stats and go that way, or you try to do multiple playthroughs, in which case you're going to be spending a month or two enjoying this game. And I hope you do, because for me, it's a 10 out of 10. I love this game. Um, I might do Hero U because Laurie and Corey Cole, the designers of this game, ended up doing a Kickstarter for a newer game that came out a few years ago, which was fun, not as fun as their first games, but it was still interesting and worth giving a shot. So if you like this game, you're probably going to like that game, and we'll probably talk about that at some point. It might not be a part of the Classics series, but we'll get to that eventually. So if you like this, don't forget, smash the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get updates for all the future content. Join our Discord, links are down there. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can head over to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/wandering hermits. You can get in for $3 a month, buy me a cup of coffee. It'd be a great way to say thanks for the videos that I produce here on YouTube. And I'll see everybody, if not here on YouTube, the next time we do a video, maybe in Discord or over at Patreon. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.